A bit unrelated, but this is a story I've actually been wanting to tell for a while. I wanted to wait till Kaho was here because this involves Kaho. Like, how many years ago was this?
2, 3. What? One of the videos like we worked on
Never came out.
Right.
And the reason why is because Kaho always just sends me a bunch of really cool video ideas, and sometimes we pursue them, sometimes we don't. I think most of the time we film something, it comes out. I think this is the only time it hasn't. Right?
Only time, yes.
Yeah. So I was like, we should, let's just, this is in the time when I was uploading weekly as well. So I was like, I need all the video ideas. And Kaho was like, I found this otter sanctuary.
Otter.
Where was it?
They
It was
nurture otter like in Shizuoka, where like in Yamanashi. I forgot. Kind of far. It was not in Tokyo, so we had to rent a car.
It's like an hour-and-a-half drive, I think. It was a sanctuary for otters, and it's just like a guy that's just taking care of otters, and he's like, "Yeah, come check it out. Come film it." And I was like,
They have a pool too, so it was really nice.
Pool and stuff for them. So we were like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And I remember I was like, okay, this is it's legit, I guess. It says they're a sanctuary. And this is when I started to learn more about Japan and animals and not the best track record with them generally, let's say. Different laws. And so, we drive all the way up there. And I remember we were in the car and we're like 2 minutes away. And I'm like, are you sure it's around here? Because we're driving the car and we're in like a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
You're like, otter sanctuary? Like a sanctuary for otters in a residential neighborhood? Like, that doesn't seem right. And then we're like, okay, it must be this one. It's this big house with like a giant wooden fence around the side of it.
Very fancy.
Yeah, it looked kind of expensive.
Right.
Yeah, interesting. And then we go into this thing, and immediately when the door opens, you can smell the otters.
Pungent.
It's so pungent, and you're like, okay, so it's like a house situation. All right, so I guess it could maybe be a sanctuary if you had like 2 or 3 otters.
Yeah.
It became very apparent very quickly. There was a lot more than 2 or 3.
Okay.
There was a lot of otters.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, maybe there's still like an angle here of something we can film and maybe talk about, maybe this guy's a really chill guy. Because I do think in Japan, there are a lot of animal owners that mean well, but they just don't have the space or means required to take care of the animal they want to.
Right.
And to their credit, they're trying their best, but they really probably just shouldn't have the animal to begin with. You know what I mean? And I find that happens quite a lot here.
And also otters, in Japan, you can still have them as pet, but rest of the world, you cannot.
Yeah.
So that's where I thought it was kind of interesting. I was like, let's kind of see. And I wanted to ask the guy a bunch of questions about why do you have otters? What do you think is cool? So we're in this place, and then we're like, all right, well, I guess we'll just start filming. So we start filming, and he's like, just wait 1 second. Can you not film in this room? We're like, oh, okay. Okay. He's like, well, we'll go outside, but just turn the cameras off while we go outside. So then we go through this house, and this is like just black room with 2 giant cages, like square, like cartoon dog cages.
Okay.
2 square cages filled with otters, like stacked on top of each other. And they're like fucking clawing and shit. And I was like, I looked at Kaho and I was like, I don't think this is a sanctuary. But this guy, before we went there, he insisted, right, that he had all the paperwork. It was all legit. He had everything. And we're like, okay, well, so then we were like, okay, well, so I've just seen that. And now he's like, hey, get in the pool and play with the otters. And I'm like, I don't want to get in the pool. I do not want to do that. So we were like, okay, we do an interview. And this is where stuff got really awkward.
Yeah, very awkward.
So I was like, Kaho, can you ask this guy I think, what type of questions that you're asking?
The question that turned him off was when we asked us, so it's not allowed in the rest of the country, in the rest of the world, to have otters as pet.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that? Because, I already told him that we have to ask the question, because we have international viewership.
Yeah.
And we told him we were going to ask tough questions.
Yeah. Sure.
And he was like, oh, I'll be prepared with some, I don't know, some reference.
Yeah.
He just say that. And when I asked the question, he just the smile just disappeared from his face.
Okay.
And then I'm going to answer that in text. I was like, what? In text?
He didn't want to answer any of the tough questions.
Yeah.
And I remember when he was starting to we were starting to lose him. Guy was looking at me like, what the fuck? And the camera guys stopped looking at the camera and looked at me like, dude, what the fuck? And I was like, I've never experienced this. But then in my head, I'm like, well, I'm going to ask this guy the questions because I think what's going on here is kind of wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask this guy more questions. And then he just didn't like that.
Yeah,
And then
he was like, okay, you come here and find those authors cute. And like you're kind of responsible for like, creating that the vibe.
Right. He started like throwing it at me, being like, well, you came here to film. So what you're gonna do play with the authors, or you're gonna ask me questions? And I was like, I'm here to ask you questions. I don't give a fuck about playing with the autos.
Yeah.
I thought this was a sanctuary. Like, I'm trying to film something.
He was like trying to preach to us, like, oh, you're here for content, so you're kind of using them in a way. And like,
what?
Yeah, it was so bizarre.
That's fucked.
And then, it got really awkward fast. And at that point, I was like, well, this video isn't happening.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Like, I can't make a video about this anymore. So we were like, let's just get this over with as fast as possible.
Yeah,
so
we base with otters.
Yeah, he was like forcing us. He was like, you have to now, you should
play with the otters.
Yeah.
So he like awkwardly is like, hey, you should like, all right, so put a swimsuit on and then like sit in this bath while I throw otters in a bath. Like a fucking, and I'm like, this is the weirdest fucking thing. And me and Kaho are just like fucking mortified in this corner. Like, can we stop? Because I was really worried that he was going to lose the plot. He looked really angry. So I was like, let's just do what he fucking wants. And let's just get out of here.
Yeah.
Let's just get this over with.
Was this like a younger guy or?
Oh, he's like 30s,
Right,
40s.
he's still 40s, 30s, like something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there was like these like two women there that were like really like quiet and like it felt like a cult. Like they were like
The cult of otters.
Honestly. And like I was confused because he said it was a sanctuary and everything online said it was a sanctuary, but it looked like they were building a cafe.
Yeah.
And
They
so
were also breeding, like help.
they were
otters
breeding
breed.
them, which is also, I think, like I think you're allowed to do in Japan, but you're not allowed to sell them, or there's some kind of weird laws.
I guess you got to be really careful about it.
Yeah.
I guess you need like certain credentials.
I think it's not
They
so
have.
like simple. You can't just get some otters and start breeding them.
Yeah.
Because they are somewhat regulated.
Yeah.
And so he was like, yeah, no, I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to take care of them. I'm like, okay, I saw the giant cage. You're trying to get me to swim with them. And now it looks like you're making a cafe.
Yeah.
So like, is this a sanctuary? Like, what the fuck is this? He's like, oh, we got some teas, we got some stuff. And I'm like, this is weird, bro. Like, I'm like, this is fucked. And towards the end, I really felt like he was like getting super angry about us asking questions. Yeah.
Oh yeah, during the question, yes, like he just turned 180. And
Stop asking questions. Play with the fucking otters.
Yeah, basically. That was basically it.
Definitely.
And we were all so uncomfortable. But I felt like kind of okay because there was four of us. So I was like, okay, I don't feel like unsafe. Or anything like that. But it was definitely getting to that point where you'd like, if there's a lot of them, you'd be like, okay, might just have to just leave.
Yeah.
It's just very uncomfortable. But, I really wanted to try and figure out more about what was going on here.
Right?
But it was hopeless.
I feel like there's some sus shit going on.
Oh, 100%. 100% there's some stuff shit. Obviously, I can't name it because I'll get in trouble. But,
Also, the reference, he said, like, oh, I'm going to be ready for your question with reference. And that's probably why he said, oh, I'm going to answer that in text.
Right. Did he not realize it's a video?
Right. And then he sent me a text later on saying like, oh, here is a reference. And it was a reference, like your answers, like your questions can be answered here. And he sent me
the WDF page or something.
WWF page about otters. And
like
I was like, are you, you don't
like,
represent WWF. That is so weird.
That's like saying like, here's my reference, and it's just the Wikipedia page for
Right?
otters.
It's like, what? Are you from
Basically,
WWF?
Like, and I think even on that page, like it mentioned that like most people just shouldn't have otters and other stuff that was kind of contrary to what he was saying was happening. So I was just really confused. Like I don't really like these otter cafes, or there's a lot of them that I've really turned off on. Because obviously when you first come here, you're like, oh, it sounds kind of good. Maybe they're taking care of them. But the more you learn about these places, the more you're like,
I mean, I've personally never been a fan of like animal cafes or anything like that.
Well, that's why I thought, I was like, okay, it's not an animal cafe, it's a sanctuary. On the website, they say it's a sanctuary.
Well, that's just straight up false advertising.
Yeah, well, I didn't even know, like, what are the laws around saying you're a sanctuary in Japan? Like,
That's true.
Can you just say you're a sanctuary? Like,
I don't think so.
What counts as being a sanctuary? What are the definitions of one? You know,
I guess because I went into it naivete, thinking that like I thought it would be like the Western sanctuary where there's a lot of space. More so like
like an open pond or something.
Not even like a zoo. It's like it's just for the otters, and occasionally they'll let people film, because he was saying that people aren't even allowed to go there. which felt very much like a lie when we got there.
Oh, so like when I asked like, oh, should I bring anything like for orders? And he said, oh, people usually like bring the money for some like food for their food.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Usually, I was like, okay, and I put money like each million, I guess, 10,000 yen in the envelope, like Japanese way, and like I brought it like, oh, thank you so much for today, and this is for orders. And he was like, he put it out there, and I tried to see like with the sunlight and see how much was in it.
That's very, very rude in Japan.
Right? It's like
anywhere in the world.
And he's like, my food for the next.
It's like, how much do the orders need? I need a 90% cut. Actually,
I need dinner tonight. And, yeah, that sounds fucked.
It's just like, it's crazy.
How long ago was this?
Like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Oh shit!
I never spoke about it because I didn't really know how to bring it up, and I also didn't want to talk about it at that time.
Like, it was really cute footage with otters, but we just had to like, get to the point. And
I think I have the footage somewhere. Maybe I can throw some in this video. We don't have to blow everything though, but
or Patreon
version. Yeah, because I mean, obviously in Japan, it's very strict with what you can show. Film and stuff. So
exactly.
But I mean, I hope that guy doesn't have a business. That was oh my God. You're talking about horror, bro.
Yeah.
Walking into that black room with a cage full of 30 otters. That was like horrific.